I have Jayme here, and she is a wedding photographer out in Victor, Idaho, servicing the Jackson Hole, Wyoming area.
I've been doing weddings since about 2010. It was kind of after I got married. That's how I kind of,
So when did you get married?
in 2008.
So you got married in 2008, and then you started wedding photography in 2010.
Correct.
And what happened and what were you doing before that?
Well, I've always been into photography. I went to the Colorado Art Institute and got a degree in photography back in the day when it was film. So a long time ago.
So you started in film.
I did start in film.
Which is amazing. Do you think that made you a better photographer?
I do, actually. I think, well, back in the day, I mean, film, especially I shot a lot of slides. So a slide, you had to get it right away. There's no Photoshop. There's no, even like a slide, it's like your exposure had to be pretty right on.
What is a slide?
Are you asking me? Or
yeah.
Do you know?
No, I'm asking you. Like, I have film cameras and I put film rolls in them. What's a slide?
Well, a slide it's just a film camera, but it's slide film. So it would be, instead of a negative, it was a positive. Do you remember like slideshows when you were a little kid?
Yeah. Like your dad like slips the things in, it rotates. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of, it would be a positive. So it would be like a mini little picture that was clear.
Okay. That had color already kind of baked in and all that jazz?
Yeah. That's how like everything that was shot for magazines, probably ads, was all that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
It's a different way to print it.
Yeah.
But it was just better quality than a negative.
Okay. Had no idea.
So art school, that's where it all began. Even, as a little kid, I got a camera for Christmas one year. I also got perfume. And I remember going and collecting all of my lamps from my mom's house and making a little studio so I could take pictures of
like product photography kind of thing, and you're using the lamps to light it all.
Yeah, so I would take the lamp shade off and like had them all, but I don't remember how they turned out because I don't know if I ever got it developed.
Yeah,
but I remember thinking then, so I was probably like, I don't know, 8 or 10, being like, this is what I want to do for my career. And so I don't know, it's amazing that like my little kid dream came true.
That's amazing. So you dabbled in that as a kid. You went to university, went to college, studied in that area. And when did you graduate?
I got my art degree in 2000.
So 2000. You get married in 2008. When did you move to Victor? Because you're in Victor, right?
Yeah. We moved here in 2007, I guess.
And what took you to Victor?
My husband. So he was a ski bum here in Jackson in the winter. And then in the summer, he would go to Colorado and was a river guide. Mm-hmm. And I was managing a rafting river photo company. And that's how we met. So
you're doing the photography and video?
Yep. So we were just doing photos. Yeah. So we just met on the river, and he had friends here in Victor because we're, pretty close to Jackson. So we just moved here. I was like, sure, why not? But at the time, I had no idea I was going to get into weddings. I actually never thought I would do people photography at all. When I went to art school, I was maybe architecture or like be a travel photographer, super shy about people. Like the only class I ever failed in college was fashion photography, but I would have to like have models come in, and I was just like so shy and awkward. Like working with people was just terrifying. And I don't know, I think back then too, the glamour of wedding photography just didn't have the same appeal.
Like, what do you mean the glamour of it?
Or maybe not the glamour, but like now I just feel like it suits me better, because especially where I live, like just being outside in nature, getting to be in the national parks, getting to go like hike with my couples. It's very different than when I was in the city and it was, church photography. Yeah, I never thought I'd be a wedding photographer, but here I am.
So then you get married in 2008. Who's your wedding photographer?
He was a friend of ours from Colorado who was a river guide who at the time was doing wedding photography. He did a great job, but I don't think I didn't have the same value that I do now. Like if I were to get married now, I think it'd be really hard to find the perfect photographer that would be my style, my fit. Back then, I just went with who I was comfortable with and who was my friend. And it was nice having somebody I felt comfortable with, which I think is key. That's why I tell all my clients anyways, like you're going to spend the most time with me and a videographer. So find somebody that you don't mind hanging out with all day.
I often am amazed at that fact that, say, video and photo get more privileged access to the couple than their closest friends on the wedding day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, besides like each other, like it's the 3 or 4 of us hanging out all day long.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. But it's also, it's such a privilege and an honor for me. I would imagine you feel the same way, to like be a witness to these intimate moments of these people. It's incredible.
Yeah. So fast forward, married in 2008. What happened in 2010?
When we moved here, like I knew I wanted to be a photographer. It
Yeah.
just like being a photographer, especially then, it was kind of before the internet and Instagram, and it just wasn't as easy to like look in the paper and find a job. So in the meantime, I had like 3 jobs to live here. But I worked in a coffee shop for 4 years, and that broke down my like shyness, I guess. Like just having that repetition and that customer service and like talking to people over and over and over. And I also just grew up a little bit, but that ease to make small talk and that kind of went away, to that fear, I guess, of people.
Yeah.
I guess went away. And the wedding industry here was just starting, I would say. I mean, it was here, but it was starting to kind of blossom about that same time. And so I was like, gosh, I'm a photographer. I have a camera. Like, why not give it a try? And my friend hired me to shoot a wedding in Mexico. And that was the only wedding I had to put on a website. And I put it on my website. Now
We'll shoot your wedding in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Here's a Mexico wedding to show you I can do it.
Exactly. And somehow people hired me, which is crazy. But the first year, like, I am not that overnight success story when I'm like, oh, I wanted to be a wedding photographer. And I shot 50 weddings my first year.
Yeah.
That's not me. Which is good, because I don't think I could have handled that.
Mm-hmm.
I eased into it. Like my first year, I put an ad in the Grand Wedding, which is a local wedding magazine, put my Mexico wedding in there, them on the beach. And, that first year, I think I shot like 3 weddings or something.
Yeah.
And then the next year it was 7. And the next year it was 12. And then I got to this point about 5 years ago, whatever year that would be. Yeah, 5 or 6 years ago. Because I was still working 3 jobs to live here and doing the wedding industry, wedding photography on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But having 7 weddings or having 30 weddings, it's kind of the same behind the scenes work as like building your website. Your costs are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was putting all this energy and money and, like hope and disappointment, and everything was just all bundled up all together. And I had this defining moment, and it was like, I either need to quit or I need to put myself 100% in. Because this like wishy-washy of like, yeah, maybe I want to do this, or maybe I don't. It was really challenging, and I didn't know what else to do if I didn't do this, because I was starting to really love it at that time, that I was like, I'm all in. And so I put 100%, 110% into my business. I got a business coach. I just got somebody to help kind of like work through those fears I had of, yeah, I could take photos and they're pretty, but like, how do you run a business? How do you put together a website? How do you sell yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And once I had somebody come and just like really simply clean that up for me, it just gave me some confidence. And then like next year I booked 25 weddings, so it was just, but for me, I think a lot of it was just energetically making that conscious decision of like, I'm doing this and I'm putting everything into it.
So you dabbled in it, it was growing. And then at one point you're just like, I'm all in. What is it that you love so much about it?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. When I was in art school and I wanted to go travel the world, it was a lot of nature photography that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, my backyard is Grand Teton National Park.
Yep.
Like I can see the Grand Teton from my house. It's awesome. So it combined like being outside, and then I had this new like found appreciation or love of connecting with people that I've never really had, because I was just always was guarded. And so now I get to meet these people from all over the country, sometimes the world, and hear their story and connect with them and just witness a part of their day or part of their life, I guess. The other part, I mean, my friends kind of make fun of me. They're like, you love, but I'm a sucker. Like, we have one of the best jobs in the world. We get to go and like share time with people on the happiest day of their life and just celebrate love.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty awesome. So it's kind of just a combination of all that. And, in a way, I kind of like weddings to some degree, because they're all different, but they're kind of the same. Like, what you're getting into, but it's always different. So it keeps you on your toes, but the formula of the day for the most part. So there's like a comfort in that as well.
Yeah.
And of course, taking photos. Like I've always just been an artist, and photography seems to be the way I express myself. Yeah, so it's kind of a combination of everything.
Quick question then. Do you find that a lot of couples coming in, what do you find a common theme is? Like, did they vacation there as kids? Do they live there? Are they traveling in a lot of times and just live elsewhere?
Yeah, kind of a mix of all of it. Like some of them were like, my parents had a house here when I was growing up. Some of it are like, we traveled here as a kid. I feel like a lot of my couples love national parks.
Mm-hmm.
They love nature. And I think that's another bond I have with my clients quite a bit, is like the bond of this place, whether it's just loving nature, loving the forest, loving national parks,
Yeah.
loving just being outside and moving your body. Like I find easy, like that's a quick connection I make with almost everybody that comes here.
Yeah.
And sharing this place. Some people, I would say, I don't know, there's always that like 30% of my couples I've never been here before, but they're Googling like, where's a pretty place to get married? I mean, that's like the best compliment when they Google that and they find my photos and they're like, you're the reason we're getting married here. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty powerful. They saw one of my pretty photos and they're like, that's where we're getting married.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people from the South who have never been to the West. So seeing these, like, they've never seen mountains before and they're seeing these things for the first time. I just did a wedding I did an engagement session a few weeks ago. She had never seen snow and we have like 3.5 feet of snow everywhere.
That's crazy.
I know. And just like her like childlike awe of it was amazing. Just to see her enthusiasm.
So what was that shoot? Was that a wedding?
It was they just got married, so they were on their honeymoon.
Okay.
So it was kind of like a honeymoon session.
Yeah.
They just wanted pretty photos here, which was awesome.
Obviously, you're like the local expert, right? Which is super nice. If they're not from the area and they're planning a wedding, it's like, this is what you've been doing for years. What advice can you tell couples, like even if they're considering right now, at some point the thought comes in like, what if we traveled for our wedding? And then all of a sudden the next thought comes in, man, well, what would it actually look like to do a wedding? Like, it's great to see a beautiful photo, but what's all attached to that? Can you speak to that?
Well, there's a few different aspects, obviously. As I'm looking outside and it's snowing, huge snowflakes right now, like I kind of ask, like, how do you envision your wedding?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want wildflowers? Do you want fall colors? Do you want snow? Because I think sometimes, especially people that don't live here, their idea of seasons are a little skewed, because in April, on the East Coast, there's like flowers and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not that way here until like June. So I think I've had people like, oh, I want to get married there in May or early May or end of April. And I try to like, maybe not, because this is what it's like here. Like, so I try to just, if they don't even have a date in mind, like I kind of just try to figure out like, what are they going for? What kind of weather, what kind of experience are they going for? And then the next thing is like, do you want the intimate national park wedding? Do you want a venue where everybody can just stay on site? Or do you want both? We could do both. Like we could still do photos in the park and then go to the venue. So I kind of just pick, I just would try to figure out what the feel of their wedding wants to be. Is it intimate? Is it a big wedding? Are you trying to share this with 100 people? And then, I've worked at almost every venue here. So I could speak to what venue has what offerings and what views. And another big thing for me is the lighting here. So if you're eloping here and you're totally flexible in your time, I'm going to schedule it around the pretty light in the evening. And you might be eating dinner at 9:30 at night because it stays light here forever. But if that's what you're going after, like we're going to make that happen, get that pretty light.
It's funny. That wedding that we shot at Jackson Hole Golf and Tennis, it was such an amazing thing because they had, like, if you highlight that wedding, they were at one physical location, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, is that one of the best venues with the best views of the Teton? It's got to fall into the top.
Yeah, I would say for being like in town, that is one of the best views.
Yeah.
And it's easy, Yeah. I mean, everything's it's like a one-stop shop, really.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're like getting more into the park, and I've never shot there, but Moosehead Ranch.
Okay.
Moosehead Ranch. It is in the park. But you can only get married there kind of maybe in like the fall because it's a working ranch.
Yeah.
But their views are like in your face pretty.
Me being there when I was shooting a wedding, I remember coming up out of Jackson and kind of cusping over the hill, and then all of a sudden the Tetons are revealed, and it's like, I don't know if you ever get used to that.
No,
It just doesn't
no,
feel real.
I feel, and I tell this to pretty much everyone I share that experience with in the park of like, I've seen this place so many times now in so many different weather and so much different light, and it still blows my mind away. It's still, they're just breathtaking. Like, I can't describe it. And but I think that's what's fun with my couples is getting to share that. And like sometimes we'll just all stand there in awe of just the beautiful mountains and
Mm-hmm.
take a moment because it's spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, so let's just say a couple's on the process. They're saying, yes, we want to get married in Jackson. And now obviously they have to put a whole plethora of a team together. It's not easy. Photography is probably one of the top choices at the moment. What are some things like that you could share with them? Maybe as you talk about, maybe I could just ask you, like, how do you work with couples? How do you put them at ease? Like, it sounds like you'd be a great person to speak to that, especially with your background of, hey, like, you failed that one class fashion photography, but yet here you are, a successful photographer in the Jackson, Wyoming market, and you produce beautiful content with people. Talk to me about, like, how do you work with your couples? What's that like for them?
You know, I I want a real connection with my couples if possible. You do get the clients that email you and they book you just via email, which is fine, but I'm a big fan of like having that one-on-one phone call and connecting and finding that mutual uh meeting place. And like I said, a lot of times it's just because they love it here or they love nature and just finding and building a relationship from the beginning. Like some of my favorite clients and memories are the ones that I feel like a friend by their wedding day. Maybe it's because we text back and forth about like flowers or we just have that ongoing communication. I mean, I think that's the beginning of what I want with all my clients. That way on their wedding day, it's like hanging out with a friend and they're comfortable with you and you're so excited to see them married. Like I cry at almost every wedding, especially ones that I've built even a deeper connection with. Um, so that's my first thing is I would love to connect with people on the phone. And then, if we work together, then I'm all about helping you find the vendors that are going to be the right fit for you, the right budget, the right feel, um, and try to just help their vision come to life, whatever that might be. Uh, I shoot elopements and big weddings. So I find elopements, I get more of a bond with the clients to some degree because it's more intimate and more hands-on for me,
Mm-hmm.
where the bigger weddings sometimes have like a wedding planner,
Mm-hmm.
which does some of that part.
Because obviously there's a lot of photographers out there, different approaches, different styles. What kind of couples are most attracted to you, and for what reason?
I would say I feel like a lot of people that were like, when they comment on like what they like on my website or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, it's usually the big mountains. And, it's like big mountains, little people, or it's the way that I work with light.
Yeah.
I really love light and I love that last light of the day and that like kiss of sun. And I would say that's why a lot of people hire me are those two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say when we worked that wedding together, one, it was really fun having you there because you were like the guide, right? I remember we jumped in the golf carts, took the couple off. That was like kind of right before reception and everything kicked off. Headed out to this edge. There was a fence. Tetons were in the background. The light was stunning. It was great to see you working with the couples. I would say just being there with you, everything was really put at ease. Like wedding days can be stressful, but I don't think you added to any of that. Like if anything, you did the exact opposite where you're kind of like the guide because obviously they had a wedding planner, but a lot of times you're off independent with the couple and you're running the show and you're keeping things on time and you're wanting to get great photos while at the same time managing time, light, all that stuff. So I would say it was really fun being there with you. It's just a great experience. And obviously, like when I made the film, it really helped because you're orchestrating a lot of stuff and putting them in really good spots with beautiful backdrops.
I know. I want you to come out and do a film when we're in the park more, just like an elopement, because that's when you get to spend 3 hours just doing pretty photos in the park. It's pretty amazing.
So your elopement options, where have you eloped? Like where have you taken couples to elope? Yellowstone, Teton?
Mostly just the Tetons.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, but there's just so many. Like I'll do like a 3 hour elopement, and we'll go to like 3 or 4 different locations. Like once I feel like this last summer, there's so many wild animals too. We saw grizzly bears, black bears, moose. Like it's all part of the experience.
I'm trying to think what a bride would be thinking right now if they're in the process of looking for a photographer, choosing a location. What are some other logistical things or things that could help them that you've said, hey, I've seen X amount of weddings happen here. Here would be some like quick recommendations to make your day go smooth or to make sure you get what you want.
First, I would say, I kind of like go back to like kind of figure out what kind of wedding you want. Like, do you want to get married at the park? If you want to get married in Jackson but not go to the park, like think about a day after session. So or even a couple days after. So you're not rushing, you're not spending 3 hours going to the park away from your family.
Yep.
Like maybe think about something like that. Or it'd be cool to do like an adventure day after session or something if people wanted to go hiking.
And you're totally down for that, which I could guess because you have like hiking photos on your website on the About page.
Yeah. So something like that would be fun. I think one of the coolest things I think about having a wedding here is like sharing this place with your guests, which, a lot of times people have never been here. So I feel like you're giving your guests like this extra treat, and it's funny because I get a lot of clients that say, oh, it's a destination wedding, so we're expecting this many people to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always surprised when people don't say no because it's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's a little different than I would say different areas, the amount of people that say no for being a destination, because this place is amazing. And there's so many fun things to do with your guests just beyond your wedding. Mm-hmm. Like so many different activities, and people go to Yellowstone and go rafting and hiking, and it's just a fun filled week if you plan it that way.
Are there any last things that you feel would be helpful to couples, like things that you consistently pick up on through phone calls or connecting, or any other things that stand out?
If I were to work with a couple, I want them to have everything they want here. And I understand people come with different budgets. So to just realize that there are different options. There's like the high end, and then there's just different options.
Yeah.
Because it is not the cheapest place to come get married, but I have seen people do it on a budget and still have beautiful, wonderful weddings. So to keep that in mind, and that a wedding can look however you want. Yeah. And I think that's my biggest thing these days is like, I want people to realize that you can have a 10-person wedding or a 150-person wedding, but really make it what you want, and whatever that looks like to you.
I was just talking to a couple about that, and I'm always inspired by couples who just acknowledge that. And I think that what you were saying in terms of price, like obviously things that I see really bring prices of weddings up are the amount of people that you're inviting. So that's a huge factor. But at the same time, it's like investing the money on the things that you really want, and then cutting back on the areas where it's just not as important.
If this is where you want to get married, and you should do it. It's amazing. And I've never had a bride be like, I wish I didn't do this.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes sacrifice or switching things around or having a smaller wedding. I do a lot of like 10 people weddings or less, and then they go home and have a big party. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Say, let's talk about planning a wedding. What can a couple expect from you? Say there's no wedding planner. Are you kind of stepping in that role? Into what capacity are you stepping in?
Yeah, absolutely. I like helping, so I find that it's usually weddings that are on the smaller side, although I do help with big weddings too, but it's more just helping like with vendor recommendations. I like to be hands-on with the timeline, regardless if there's a planner or not. Mm-hmm. I really like to have input of how the day's laid out.
And why is that valuable to the couple?
Yeah, I would say to the couple, that way you get time for photos that you want, mm-hmm. that you don't feel rushed, that things are laid out so it's not stressful for anybody. And especially if, certain things are important to you, like a first look. We want to make sure we have enough time for that. We want enough time to, if we're traveling off site for a first look in the park, we just want to make sure we have enough time for everything. And then going back to that last light, like I love making sure we have time for 10 or 15 minutes to go get that last beautiful light wherever we may be. One thing that that's what I was going to talk about. One thing going back to this, like the last light and the weather and everything here, I have been shooting here for so long that I know how the sun works and where it's at and what time it's going to go away and what the weather patterns are like. And I feel very confident in all that stuff that I would say just bringing that to my couples, you know, like timing things perfectly so you can get the shots you want, the light you want.
I mean, that's a benefit of hiring a local because you just know the ins and outs of all that. I remember I shot a wedding in Hawaii, and I think people just make assumptions that things are similar in their local market. When they travel, they just don't realize the differences. And like sunset in Hawaii is just fast; it goes quick.
Real fast.
Versus like Pacific Northwest or Wyoming is just so different. So I think, you knowing the locations, I think there's something to be said for bringing somebody in, but there's also somebody said who like, hey, I know this place like the back of my hand, and you're essentially the guide at that point.
Well, and there's situations like roads get closed because there's bears on it. All right, plan B, like on the spot, like
closure.
Like having that knowledge and experience that I worry for couples that bring somebody from out of state and they're like, that happens and they're like, I don't know what to do. Where I'm like, I got a plan right now. Or, and like, especially in the winter, like I have a plan if it's blizzarding out. I have a plan if it's sunny out. Like I know where to go when the roads are closed. Like, I love shooting winter weddings and engagement sessions and stuff. But I feel confident in like whatever the weather's going to throw at me, I got you covered.
Yeah.
And even in the summer, like, it could rain, but it also can be sunny. And like, I just from watching and witnessing the weather patterns, like I'm pretty confident like what's going to happen. And we're very blessed in the Tetons where the sun is always just perfect. Yes. Perfectly backlit.
Assuming somebody's maybe finding this and they're not on your website or anything like that, where can they go to find your work?
So my website obviously is jamyechristman.com. I'm on Instagram at Jamye Chrisman.
Perfect.
I think I'm Jamye_Chrisman, and I'm Jamye.
Thanks so much. Hopefully this is helpful. If you're a bride or a couple getting married, be sure to check out Jayme. If you love her work, hop on, fill out that contact form, and see if she's available for your date.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.